So welcome everybody to our first Topical Tuesday of 2025. It's I don't know about you guys, but it's been very difficult trying to remember when I'm typing in the dates or trying to say the dates of putting 25 instead of 24. So, but again, thank you for coming today on your first day back to work for the new year. Hopefully everybody had a restful, relaxing holiday break. Today we are joined with Sherry, one of our fantastic consultants from Follett and Destiny, and she's going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks of ordering and looking at the reviews inside Follett. So I did put it in our chat box. I pinned it at the top. You can use the link that's there or use the QR code to scan and put your attendance in. Please remember that this is how we're going to collect your points for the end of the year when we see that you have signed in throughout the entire year, sort of as our PLC type of thing. So I'll leave this up on the screen momentarily for a few minutes or so. I will also put the sign in link into the chat box again for anybody that is just joining us today. Okay, so there is plenty of us on here today. Please make sure that you keep your microphone on mute and only unmute when your hand is raised and you have a question, or if there's something for the good of the order at the end of our time here today. So I'm going to pass it over to Sherry, who's going to, do you need to share your screen, Sherry? Okay, perfect.
See if it'll. And select a tab, window, there we go. There we go. You see tidal wave?
Yeah.
Perfect. It's switching my brains from Microsoft to Google. To Google for the longest time, then flipped over to Microsoft, and so it's coming back. All right. So, hi everyone. My name is Sherry Smith Dodson, and for those who I have not met yet, I am your Follett content consultant. So today we're going to go through a few things in Tidal Wave. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Tidal Wave, it is your online search for all of the content that we have, both within print and digital. We also have some new digital resources as well. So today, what I want to do is, with the topic that we have today, is kind of going through reviews, how to search for titles. We know that 2+ reviews is what you need. Also, when doing curation, so I kind of say, okay, we start off in our collections I consider them like your garden, right? So you have your garden that needs your weeding. And when we do that, that's our title-wise analysis side of things, where we go through, we take a look at your collection, we take a look at what needs to be weeded. And then once we kind of have a grasp on what that is, or we sometimes can't weed our garden all at once, but we do need to fertilize sections. So fertilizing our sections would be that content curation. And so today we're going to go through the curation piece of it. From your Tidal Wave account, there's a really easy way that we've set it up now for you to be able to whittle down. We have a lot of content. This is a juggernaut of, content for you to be able to access and look at. And we wanted to make it the easiest way for you to be able to do it, to make sure that we're putting in what I like to refer to as those guardrails of things that we need to do. So one of the things that I always say first is when we're looking at curating, you want to go to For the Library, and you can either take a look at things based on books and series. You can look at, core literacy programs if you're looking at early childhood, or you can also, so we have different browse by topic, We have tools and services that we also offer, but then you could also go to directly to these tabs up tend to go straight to elementary. So if I click on the elementary tab, that is going to take me again to kind of these browse by topics within that scope. And then down here is the best way. We used to do the best of tidal wave, which was just kind of like our most popular. But actually, what is really great is now we have this, you can filter it and customize it. So I can come here to customize my settings. And it also depends on kind of the size of your budget. If we're working on a really large order, sometimes I'm like 5 years or newer is a good range to start at. Sometimes you might want to start at 3 because you really want to help that average age of your collection. And that's the reason why we weed and then we fertilize. So what we want to do is go ahead and, are you guys having a hard time with seeing me? I'm seeing some freezing.
Yeah, you jumped into elementary and it froze, so I didn't get to see how you got there.
Okay. And I'm hoping it's not my connection. So I've been having some connection issues today. I'm hoping it's not me. So if I go to elementary, all right, and then from here I go to customize my settings. So 5 years, I want 2 or more favorable reviews. And then I can kind of choose where I want those reviews to come from. A lot of times I like to do Kirkus because Kirkus is one of them that will show the ages. And sometimes I think when we look at reviews, it used to be that we just talked about interest levels, right? Like 3 to 5, you know, or lower elementary, upper elementary, middle and high. So now we can really kind of drill down into ages because we know that is kind of where that appropriateness comes from as well when we're choosing and selecting books. So I might say, okay, I want to make sure that I have Kirkus and school library journals, and I want to make sure I have at least 1 review from either of those. As I scroll on down, maybe I'm wanting to just focus on lower elementary because maybe that's where I saw a need in those easy books for me to really be focusing on. Maybe it is upper elementary, or one of the things to remember is that once you've saved your preferences, that is sticky. So your preferences are sticky. However, the default will always need to be set because you might go into tidal wave and maybe be searching for makerspace products, or maybe something where this doesn't this doesn't correlate with. So if you do not see what we call the yellow gold mark, then you know that you have not clicked the default. So it's showing me that I had over 1,700 choices within that scope where I set my settings to. And so now I see these little gold marks here. And so with these gold marks, that's going to tell me this item meets my best of tidal wave preferences. So now I know that all of the titles that I have in here are meeting those 2+ reviews. They are meeting 5 years or newer, and they're going to have at least 1 of those reviews that I had wanted. And so as I scroll on down, there's also a few different ways to look. I had someone say to me, why is it showing up with only pre-published things? Well, that is because right now I have my drop downs for my sort set at copyright year. So I might say, you know what? I want to go by popularity. I want to see, and we base this on, we work with 80,000 schools across the country. So popularity is really what is going out of our warehouse. What are we seeing that people are really liking? And so one of the things you'll see now is, okay, these are popular because I noticed that we do a lot of lists. And so I have these on a saved list. If you're working on a list, this blue one will also show you, if it doesn't show that it's on a saved list, it will actually show you that it's on your current list. So if you are working on a list and you accidentally go to the same title twice, again, it's a guardrail to show you, hey, you know what? This item is already on your list, or it's on a saved list if you've been working on another list. Right now, I am not under any specific school catalog, but if I was on my school's catalog and I saw a red dash like these, but in red, if I came over here, it's always going to tell you what that means. So a red means that I own this book, and the red means that I actually own that exact same binding. If this is orange, it's going to say you might already own this. And what that means is maybe instead of a hardcover, I have one and only family, but I have it in a Follett bound or a paperback. So it's a different binding. So that's the other thing, is that Tidal Wave talks see, as long as your MARC records are loaded and everything is up, you are going to see what is in your collection. One of the other things that I also like to talk about when we are curating is, how do I dual purpose some of these things, right? So I want some of these items for pleasure reading for my students. I want choice reading to happen. But a lot of times we also know that teachers are going to come in and they're going to ask for specific books. Or do you have a book? And they tend to ask in genre mindset, because I know I'm a former classroom teacher, so I tend to think genre rather than Dewey. So one of the things that I love too is I can say, okay, you know what? I only want to look at books that have free resources. So now I have all of the books that meet those guardrails. And then I also have books that have free resources. So I know, like when I taught second grade, or first grade, we taught Things That Go and transportation and things like that. So if I look down here and I look at community, I taught that in second. And then I look at Things That Go or transportation, these genre stars, right? And then also kind of where it hits in that curriculum space, I can say, wow, there's a free teaching resource that goes along with that. And so I can go ahead and click on here. And so if you want to whittle down and look for books that also have free teaching resources. Now, the really cool thing is before, you used to have to kind of do this on the front end, but actually on the back end now, when you order, you can always look up your previous invoices in your Tidal Wave account. And when you do that, it's going to already have a zip file of every title that you have that has these downloadable resources. It comes when you get your MARC records, and everything comes into your account. So in your Tidal Wave account, you will see that there are any free resources attached to any of the books that you've ordered moving forward or in the past. And so this is great because it just has some great resources. So it's just another way for you to kind of support that classroom connection and dual purpose, get that ROI, or the return on the investment of that book. So it's pleasure reading, it's choice reading, but it can also really correlate to curriculum and instruction. So this is just a great way, kind of as you're searching, to be able to take that one step further. And if you are on the wheel and you are teaching, or you have activities or things set up in centers, this is just an easy way for you to have items and books that can go a little further, and it makes the lifting on it for you a little easier as well. So any questions on this so far? Anything about?
Can you just review again where they go for the settings?
Sure, absolutely. So from your home landing page on Tidal Wave, and right here, this will always take you back to the home page. I'm going to go to For the Library. I'm sorry, excuse me. I can go to For the Library, but I'm going to want to whittle it down and actually go to either elementary, middle, high school. So I'm going to go to elementary. And then down here, so it'll have all the different ways to browse. Fractured fairy tales, things on gaming has been really big this year, your media literacy. But if I come down here, you're going to see filter by. So I'm going to go right here to customize your settings. And then from there, I can customize the settings. So let's say that I accidentally clicked on elementary, but you know what? I really want young adult. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this off here. I'm going to go to young adult, and then it's just going to automatically pull up. Actually, I'm sorry, it won't under the elementary. You'll need to be under that. So disregard what I just said, that last part. So it's just going to go to the K-12 resources. So I would go back, and then I would go to elementary. So that is where you do. So sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you anymore. So yeah, you would just go to Best of Tidal Wave. So now I'm in K-12 resources. I'm going to go to my Best of Tidal Wave. Also, here's another way, and this is just one of the very first things actually we had in Tidal Wave, was I can go right here and I can filter what kind of bindings I want. So I can easily say, you know what? Nope, I only want Follett bounds because I know those have a lifetime guarantee on that binding. And then, you know what? Maybe I'm thinking I want to look at some books that have different reading levels, or I only want fiction, or I only want nonfiction, or only autobiographies. So no matter which area you're in, and right now you'll see where I'm in pre-K through 12 resources, but no matter which section you're in Tidal Wave, it will have this way to filter down as well. It'll filter it down to by foreign languages, reading programs, so you can go through and you can take a look that way too. So any other questions before we go on? All right. So to kind of make things a little quick and easier, what I did was, let's say I was curating a list, and I went ahead and I curated a sample list. One of the things is, if you're just kind of like, I don't really know where to start, we do have some for the library. A few districts have asked us to curate lists for them, especially if maybe they have people, it makes it easier for them to look through and see the lists and know that they've all been approved by the district. So if I come down here and I go to state resources, this is also where you're going to find your SSYRA books or your Florida Teens Reads books. So I can also your state interest books, your state author books. But if I look under state bibliographies, these are just lists that we had curated one for Broward, for elementary, middle, and high, Citrus, and Hillsborough. So sometimes these are just a good resource for you to go to because you know that they're Florida districts. And it's a good place to start. And you can always take that list. And so what I did was I took, to make a sample list for you all, I took the elementary from Broward. And then I just wanted all the items. Now it's going to be a lot of items, but it's still, you know, and then I wanted them all, and then I put them into a sample, into a list. So I said I wanted all the items. I created the list name, state resources sample, and then I added them in. So if I open that list, sorry, my computer is really slow today. There we go. One of the things is I'm not seeing my preferences. So I need to go back. Excuse me. Let me go back. Why am I not seeing my preferences? I'm going to pull a teacher card. Why am I not seeing my preferences? Anyone? What did I have them set on? I'd switched them to young adult. So I need to switch them back to elementary because that's an elementary list. So I'm going to go ahead. Remember I said they stay sticky? So there we go. All right, so now I have my elementary school list. Let me open my list. So my state resources sample. So I have my list now. Sorry for the delay. There we go. And then items that meet my best of tidal wave preferences. So maybe it's just that they don't have the review from the review that I wanted. So like a Kirkus or whatever. So I can go through though, and I can say, okay, now I have a good list to work from. So you could either use a sample list like this, or you can create your own, your own list. The easiest way to do this is as you see books that maybe you want, you can add them in as a first choice and then go from there. And I'm more than happy to take you through how to work. We've only got 30 minutes. And so I just kind of wanted you to see where there were some state resource samples already ready for you. But if I did say, okay, you know what? I want this one. I want this one. I want this one. I want this one. And I keep kind of continuing to go through for what I want. Then I could keep my first choices. And I'm going to update. So a couple other ways I could look through this book, this list. I could say, you know what? Maybe I want to look by the tag explorer. And maybe I want to see, I have had, someone asking me about some books on emotions and feelings. So the tags are also a great way for you to kind of sift through a list or analyze a list that you've created. And I'm going to show you where you can find, I've got a how-to that will show you. And we're going to talk about that before we end here too. So maybe I've had someone asking for some books on emotions and feelings. So I can go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to pick, this book and this book, and I'm going to go ahead and add them. All right. And then let's say I have my sample list all done. Okay, so my sample list is all done. And now I want to analyze my list. So I'm going to, and I always recommend this, and in that how-to, I completely advise you to do this because first of all, there's times where by accident, I'll throw a paperback in, or if a book isn't published in anything other than a paperback or a board book or an ebook, it's going to automatically pull that to the top and you might not notice. So this is really going to give you those guardrails on that aspect to say, whoops, I have a paperback in here, or I have a board book in here and I want to get rid of that. And when we talk about fertilizing our garden, it's also kind of like, where does that area go? I'm looking here and I'm like, oops, you know what? I did not take into consideration in this list any of my nonfiction, but maybe I didn't want any nonfiction this time. Maybe I wanted to focus on just easy books for this specific list. So I went ahead and I have only easy books. So this is really going to tell you where you allocated, which sections you allocated titles to in that list. And this is kind of what I call the reverse of that title-wise analysis, right? You go through your title-wise analysis to kind of see where you need to weed and, where those age titles are. And when you're building your list and you're curating, then this is really going to tell you, are you putting books back into those areas or into a specific space that you really wanted to focus on? Also my audience, am I making sure that I'm covering all of my students? Well, again, on this list, I just wanted to concentrate on my easy books. Reading levels, but I do notice that I have a few kind of higher reading levels for those kiddos that might need a little more of a challenge. all of these are in English, but if I happen to put a Spanish title on there that maybe I don't mean to, or like Harry Potter, sometimes French or Chinese will show up. And then if I accidentally put that on my list and I didn't mean to do it that way, it will automatically show you. It's also going to show you when I go through and I help people to curate lists. We also really take a look, and one of the first things I ask people is what are your demographics for your school? What are your demographics when it comes to your reading level and your striding and reluctant readers? And also, what's your demographic for your student population? Are we making sure that, I am getting books that reflect every student, all books for all kids, right? And then also social emotional learning. Am I, hitting the scope on any of those? So once I have this list made, then one of the things that I can do is I can also say, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to get out of there. I can also say, you know what? I want to like take a different look at it too. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to download this list. And I'm going to download it with the full text reviews because maybe people need to see those reviews. But also, I just want to make sure that all of them have the reviews that I want. And so then I get the Excel spreadsheet. And then with the Excel spreadsheet, I can actually sort my reviews too from smallest to largest. And I'm going to expand it. So now it's going to show me that every title meets that criteria of 2+ reviews. One of the things to remember, especially if you're curating a list, is that nonfiction sometimes is really hard to find those 2+ reviews. Once in a while, it's a little more difficult to find nonfiction. And sometimes when it comes to sets and series, it can be sets also being a lot of times in nonfiction. And then your series a lot of times can be difficult to find those 2+ reviews. And so these are just a few ways that you can Any questions before I go on from there? So I know we only have a couple more minutes.
Yeah. Do you guys have a key as to the colors and what they mean for those tags? The gold, the green, the red.
We don't that would be great if we you mean to have it actually in Tidal Wave?
Yeah. So like when you get those little tags on the side of the book, you know what it's telling you, the blue, the gold.
Over here it does.
Over
so
where?
See, so it's blue here, but right here underneath, it'll say it meets your best of Tidal Wave preferences.
So that's gold.
Yeah, that's gold. I know it doesn't look gold, but it's gold. Blue would say this item is on a saved list. If it's red, it would say you already own this item, and then orange would be. So it does. It'll give you.
So it matches the text.
Yep. And then actually we've taken it one step further now. So this says this item is on a saved list. So I could even go and take a look and say, you know what? It is on Sawgrass Elementary School. So I put it on this other list. So maybe if I had put it in order and I hadn't uploaded my mark records or, who knows, it's going to tell me what list that title was on. Maybe I didn't, finish that list. So it will always, and then if it is on your current list, it's going to be blue, but it'll say, instead of saved, it'll say current. So all of the descriptions for any of the tags over here will be right underneath here. So that's a great question. And it's kind of hard because I'm not under a specific school account, but if you were to go into your school and pull up a book that you have, it would show you. A couple other things that I really like to discuss, especially for you all, because you are a one shipment district. So I always suggest doing 10% over your list, your do not exceed amount. And so and I have this in my digital business card. So I am going to put, where did I put? I'll share that with you in a second. But this is going back through some of those things I talked about, analyzing your list. So before you order, you're always going to want to analyze your list. It's going to take you through the analyze tools. It's going to show you how you can sort that data. Also, one of the other things it's going to show you in these hundreds is it'll show you if it's from the 2000s, 2010s, and then 2020s. So you can see if it meets that newer or not. It'll show you how to sort by classification. So here's what I was talking about right there, and how you can see the different classifications. Again, talking about that diversity in all books for all kids. And then here's your final checklist. Before you submit an order, when you put together your list, you're going to put together your list. I always say write notes in here so that you know really what your thought process was when you were building this list. Were you focusing on everybody books, or were you focusing on, like, what were you doing when you built this list? Because those notes will stay with your list. The other thing is always put a do not exceed amount. So your do not exceed amount would be your PO amount, right? So if my do not exceed amount is $1,000, I would really want to build my list for 1,100. A one shipment district. So you want to be able to ship that out as soon as possible. And then when you go to print your quote, it's also going to take you through those final steps of taking a look. But also, one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to double check again. Do you have that do not exceed amount in here? And also, you want cataloging and processing. So it's going to have that filter that says, and if somebody calls me and says, I didn't get processing on my books, I said, let's go back and look. Did you request it? Because you have to pick one or the other. So you always, if you want those to come shelf ready with barcodes, with your spine labels and everything, you want to pick, I want cataloging and processing. One of the other things I always recommend too is please review your cataloging and processing specifications every year before you place an order. We don't know if maybe you're not using AR anymore, or if you added reading counts. We don't know when you start a new reading program or if something changed. So make sure that we have that information so that your books come the way you want them to be. And then it's going to show you on your printout book processing. So it will show you that you selected book processing. It will show you, here is your do not exceed amount is $2,000, but your total of your list was 2,100. So, and then just also make sure that when you're looking through here that, you have the right school down, you have everything the way that it's supposed to be. And then of course, we're here to help if you have any questions. And then on the bottom of my digital business card, so here's my digital business card. In fact, let me pop this in the chat. At the bottom of my digital business card is not only my contact information, but also the contact information for Kim Krager, who is your dedicated customer service representative. So if you are going through weeding your books and you find a Follett bound book where the binding is bad, then contact Kim and say, hey, I need a replacement for my Follett bound. Or if you have any questions about an invoice, call Kim. Also, if you have any questions about Destiny, that is software. So I have all of your Destiny support information in there as well. It's just some other helpful things. And then also some of the how-tos like I talked about today. So I always say bookmark this, then it'll have everything there for you. And it'll just make it really easy for you to have my contact and all your other Follett resources in one place.
Excellent. One last question. How do you again adjust the book processing information? So if we take AR out, or we don't want the Fontes and Pinnell levels on it anymore, how does one change that?
Great question. So on that how-to, it's going to show you, here's Kim's information. So you just need to email Kim. There is a space up there that you can write it in the box, but I would just email Kim and CC me, and just say, hey, Kim, and make sure you put your customer number in there so that she knows where your customer number is. And you can find your customer number under your settings. One other thing I also recommend, because you are a one shipment district, is also you're able to track your order. Once it's past your 2 weeks and everything, and you've given it to the bookkeeper, then what I would do is within about 48 hours, I would go through and I would, can you see my screen? Or do I need to share it again? Okay. So I would go through and I would start tracking your order. So you would just go into order history, open orders. And if we've received your order, it'll say the date that we received it, and it'll say what part of your process your order is in. So for example, it will say that we're preparing the order if it's on hold. And these are multiple shipment schools, so yours would only have one shipment. But that is why I always say like back order too. So just make sure that you kind of keep track on that, because I've had people call me and be like, I haven't got mine. I don't know why. And then I'll say, it never got to us. Like, we don't see it, Or if you want to go back and find some of those free resources and those zip files from previous orders, you can go back in and you can look at previous school years and previous orders and click on them, and it'll show you where they are. And of course, schedule some time with me in my card. I have, and 30 minutes is a lot. I know I'm 6 minutes over. So just to kind of be able to really whittle down some of the things that we talked about and really kind of go through your goals and what you're looking for and what you'd like to do. I love to talk about that stuff. So I'm more than happy to help you with collection development.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sherry.
You're
You're always full of information for us. And again, like she said, always willing to come out or help or do virtual or a phone call, anything that you guys need from her. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay. So Sherry, I'm going to finish out the meeting here, and then I'll send out your information to everybody at the end so that they can contact you if need be.
And I put my link in the chat too. So
Perfect.
there.
I'll add that. Perfect.
Perfect. I'll make it easy for you. I had it.
All right. So if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and close out. Don't forget to be tagging us in everything that you're doing. We know that Celebrate Literacy Week is going to be coming up at the end of the month. Please make sure that you are showing everybody and us what you guys are doing. And we really do enjoy seeing what's happening in your day to day. Thank you for everybody who was able to join us yesterday with our TV production PD. I think it was very useful, very helpful, and hopefully everybody enjoyed all the hands-on practice that they got, and that they could hopefully maneuver their way through their TV studio now just a little bit. And Anya should have sent out information earlier today with more information from the Google Classroom or who to contact for more info. And the next PDD day is February 24th. Library Media is not having their own professional development. We encourage everybody to go to the technology conference. This is sponsored by our ed tech team. Some of you might be even presenting. Some of us on our team is presenting, and it's going to be a all-day event held at Dr. J High School, and it will be a great opportunity for you to learn or get more practice with different technology pieces. If you have not already, please join Emma. They are getting very close to meeting with upper leadership and advocating for you. They do have different events, different things that they send out. So it's a very useful organization to be part of. They also host a event or a celebration for us at the end of the school year every year. You should have received a save the date for April 10th for our end of the year gala. Please invite your admin and your media clerk. Your whole library family can come. It's a great evening be on the lookout for a formal invitation and how to send in payment and things like that. You do not need to be an Emma member to come to the celebration. Everybody is invited that evening. Again, if you need points, this will be worth 20 points at the end of the school year. You'll have one assignment at the end of it to sort of accumulate everything. And then based on your assignment and the attendance, we can give you up to your 20 PLC points. So, like we said, sort of looking back and thinking about August and September, we've done a lot of video editing with Adobe, and we just did a newscast PD, and we're sort of hoping that you guys feel a little bit more comfortable this year and join the and maybe sign up and do our Jim Harbin Film Festival. We'll learn more about that our next Topical Tuesday, which is January 21st. There'll be some how-tos, and then hopefully you can get started on filming or using what you've already filmed to sort of do the contest and put your students in their work. But you'll learn more about that for our next Topical Tuesday. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.